fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage. Over.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo. And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here with you. So glad you can join us, whether you're listening at www.behindenemylinesradio.us, or if you're checking us out on the AM radio dial, maybe the FM radio dial, possibly the interwebs radio. We're glad you tuned in, locked and loaded, ready for another great show. Or if we're traveling along with you as a podcast. We are so happy to be along for the ride. Got a great show for you this week as we return back from our summer break with some new content. So glad you hung with us during that time. You know, I was out doing the lawyer thing. Russ and I are getting the technology together after our trip in June. And now it's going to be time to open up a new chapter for the show. And we'll talk about that a little later. But first, let's talk about the big news of the week thus far. And that is the repeal and subsequent rollout of the expiration of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Executive Order of President Obama.
I'm here today to announce that the program known as DACA that was effectuated under the Obama administration is being rescinded. The DACA program was implemented in 2012 and essentially provided a legal status for recipients for a renewable 2-year term, work authorization, and other benefits, including participation in the Social Security program to 800,000 mostly adult illegal aliens. The policy was implemented unilaterally to great controversy and legal concern after Congress rejected legislative proposals to extend similar benefits on numerous occasions to this same group of illegal aliens. In other words, the executive branch, through DACA, deliberately sought to achieve what the legislative branch specifically refused to authorize on multiple occasions. Such an open-ended circumvention of immigration laws was an unconstitutional exercise of authority by the executive branch. The effect of this unilateral executive amnesty, among other things, contributed to a surge of minors at the southern border that yielded terrible humanitarian consequences. It also denied jobs to hundreds of thousands of Americans by allowing those same illegal aliens to take those jobs. We inherited from our founders and have advanced an unsurpassed legal heritage, which is the foundation of our freedom, our safety, and our prosperity. As Attorney General, it is my duty to ensure that the laws of the United States are enforced and that the constitutional order is upheld.
It was one of President Trump's campaign promises, one that he took a great deal of time to think about, and this gives us an opportunity to do a lot of things, people. We're going to first talk about what this act was, and we're not going to call it an act because it's not a law, what this executive order was, what the rollout is going to be for ramping it down, how this shows the Trump administration has matured from beginning to present in less than a year, and then later on after the break, we will talk about the explosion of the left and the media and how they are saying this is the end of humanity as we know it and all that fun stuff. But first, let's get down to knowing what we're talking about. Knowing is half the battle. That's what G.I. Joe taught me. So what exactly is, or was I should say, President Obama's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals? Well, let's discuss what it is first and foremost. There are three things that we all know it allows young immigrants, known as dreamers, who were brought to the U.S. illegally as children, to live and work here temporarily. How does it operate? Currently, this is what it did. That doesn't sound right at all. Here is what it did before this week. First was the deprioritization of removal of non-criminal, unauthorized immigrants. So that what that means is if you didn't have a criminal record and you were not here in the country legally and you were brought here as a child, they were going to deprioritize, and they did for years, deprioritize your removal and removal proceedings from the United States, the legal process by which an illegal immigrant is deported. They were deprioritized, put to the bottom of the list. The second part formalized that decision not to remove them. So basically what it did was it created a form, which was known as an I-797, a notice of action, stating that the removal action against that person had been deferred for 2 years. Their information was then placed in a database, and if it was checked against immigrant databases, they are shown as lawfully present. So 800,000 young immigrants, or actually you want to call them young illegal immigrants, enrolled in DACA and received such a letter. The third part of the rollout was that under the law, they would be authorized to work. This wasn't so much for the young illegal immigrant. This was for the business that would be employing said young illegal immigrant. Normally a business, and you can ask Congressman Michael Grimm about this because he was convicted of it, especially with the tax evasions and the issues there, that young illegal immigrant would not be allowed to work, would not be authorized to work, and the business could get in trouble by employing a non-citizen who is not authorized to work. So this form was about authorizing the employer to make the hire. And because when you look in the database, you see nothing but a legal status there, it's a way of putting a thumb on the scale, kind of gaming the system a little bit. It's a workaround for that younger person. And you know what? Everyone seemed to love it on the left. But there was a major problem with this. And see, the problem is, this isn't a law. This is an executive order. What does that mean? Not a law. It means that it's freely revocable at the whim of the executive. It's not some... And besides all that, and forget about the usurpation of power by the executive branch under President Obama, let's put that aside for a second. Put a pin in it. Members of Congress never got to vote on whether or not this scheme, as developed by the executive, should be law. In fact, Congress voted down several actions that were similar here. Here's the thing, folks. If you want immigration reform and if there is an executive that wants this scheme, why not put it before the legislature? I'll tell you why not. I answer my own questions here behind enemy lines. I ask them and I answer them. The answer is because President Obama knew he couldn't get it past the legislature. He knew he didn't have the votes. That's why he did it for himself and didn't allow you and your representatives to have a say. President Trump now, in his rollout of the repeal of DACA, is saying, we're not going to repeal it today, and we're not going to do it tomorrow. We're going to give Congress the opportunity that President Obama never gave them. We're going to give them the opportunity to create law the way that they see fit in a scheme that will be approved by me if it so happens to be written properly and to his own specifications. And we shall see if we can make this executive order or something similar or something totally different, some type of immigration reform addressing this issue, law. And as you can see with this administration, this step was taken, unlike past steps when we were talking about stopping people from coming into the country and, the pause in immigration and from the countries that were either sponsors of terror or inundated with terror cells or whatever the case may be, if you remember all that, this was done really contemplatively. The Department of Justice, Attorney General Sessions rolled this out, and just again, let's put that pin in that for a second again. This shouldn't come as a surprise that this is happening in the first year. President Trump promised this would be happening. Jeff Sessions in his confirmation hearings was talking about this happening. This shouldn't be such a surprise to Democrats in Congress or even Republicans who are talking about this in Congress currently. They've had several months to think about this and know that this was coming. And now they have several months in advance of today to deal with this as well. We'll get to Congress in a second, but let's get back to the administration. Look at the way that the administration handled this. No action happening today, just an announcement, followed by a period of time by which the administration will allow Congress to act, followed by, a renewal period in October for those who are already presently here under DACA to renew their status for another 2 years. We're talking about a 2.5 year ramp down of DACA. Nothing happening tomorrow, folks. There's going to be no police knocking down anyone's door tomorrow, folks. Not like the left will have you believing that this is such a dark day for illegal immigrants. And the reason why this is ramping down in this fashion is because President Trump and his administration recognized that this is a highly sensitive issue. You don't want to take the sins of the parents out on the children. That's kind of the goal here. These children didn't ask to come here. They were brought here. They followed along with their parents. Their parents were the ones who came here illegally and dragged them into this country across the border. By the way, when we're talking about going across the border, the majority of people here with applications under DACA come from Mexico, Central America, and South America. A few from Asia, but mostly Mexico, Central America, South America we're talking about. So that's why I'm saying going across the border. So these children who are here now went to school here, made friends here, got degrees here, for all intents and purposes, have been raised in America, know nothing else but America. What do you do with them, and how do you balance the equities here between the interests of a child who knows nothing but this country versus the rule of law? And this is where Congress is supposed to step in as a legislature. It is not the job of the executive, no matter who it is, Trump, Obama, whatever, to say what should happen to these children and young adults. It is the legislature's job to legislate. Do your job, Congress. President Obama overreached in the sense that he took an opportunity from Congress to do their job and did their job for them. And he did so in a way that had a political end. It was a political means to an end. And what happened with this election in 2016 is that President Obama probably misread the tea leaves and said, President Clinton, presumably the winner, will continue my policies going forward. So I'm not going to worry about this. This is secure. Well, this is what happens when you read tea leaves, and sometimes you read them wrong. President Trump won. We all know the story about what happened there. And if you want to read about it in Hillary's new book, the revisionist history version of it, feel free to do so. But we all know what really happened. The worst campaign in Democrat history. Scandal-scarred Hillary Clinton refusing to go to states that she thought she had well in hand, etc., etc., etc. And now you have President Trump reversing a half-assed political vehicle. That's all that DACA was. It wasn't law. It was a privilege extended by a political animal. President Obama, above all else, was a political animal. So what he did was he created this loophole, this deferment for 2 years, thinking that it was going to continue on beyond him. But it didn't happen. Now we have President Trump. And what President Trump did, as you saw over time, his position evolved. It was started from the first day DACA is getting repealed. And then it turned to, you know what? I have a heart here and I need to think about what to do with these kids, and this is a complex issue. Absolutely right. This is a complex issue. It's a very complex issue. One that the representatives